Okay, hello, Mr. Clark. How are you today?
I'm good, bud. How's it going, Sammy?
Timer, so we remember. I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. How are you holding up in these quarantine times?
Yeah, it's better now that I can go out for drives these days, so can't
Yeah,
complain.
isn't that what everybody's missed these days? Just going out for a drive, man. I actually out for a drive yesterday with a friend of mine. We went out just to the East Coast. I was like, I just want to drive. I don't even want to drive. I just want to get out of the city, you know. And she drove
Go
in her
somewhere.
Renault Duster. We just went to one of those roads that we usually drive on.
Yeah. Out in the middle of nowhere.
Out in the middle of nowhere where it's like rocky terrain. We did a bit of a hike and then we came back. And it was nice. It was super hot, but it was nice.
I was gonna say that was the only problem is if COVID could have come like a couple of months later, we'd all be indoors anyways.
Yeah,
Why did it
exactly.
have to ruin the rest of the winter?
Absolutely. Man, right? We got like our winter was like snatched from us, man. It
Yep.
was like unfair.
Let's just fast
We
forward
were-
to like October this year, and
Yeah, man. I please, because like that's when I want to work and all that. But anyway, that's not why we're here. Not to talk about COVID. I think everybody talks about COVID enough.
fair enough.
I don't want people to, and like 4 years from now, like look back on these videos and it's like, oh, it's the only thing
COVID.
people talk about, COVID.
Let's talk about these guys instead.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that COVID had taken away from us, especially part of the winter program, was one of Dubai Drive's track day 2, right? So
Yeah.
we were going to do that track day 2.
Yep, I was looking forward to that.
I was very much looking forward to that as well because I've only done one track day ever in my life, considering I have a Renault Clio Sport. It was like, and I know you kept pushing me. You're like, you have to do it. And I did it once, and it was probably the most fun I've had in that car in a really long time because it's really no holds bar. You know, like you just
Yeah,
go,
exactly.
you do whatever, like
Within
respectfully,
reason.
within reason.
Within reason.
You do whatever the hell you want. You know, like
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about a cop. You don't have to worry about some guy who's blindsiding you. You know,
Yep.
like or whatever. Like, and you don't have to worry about being so much faster than everybody else on a regular road. You know, because obviously you're pushing the car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's just as fast as you. You know. So tell me about your experiences with track days. You're a very track day heavy kind of guy. You love them. You go to them all the time. You're very much involved with a lot of track days around here.
Fair,
Yeah. So tell me about that a little bit. So what's your experience with them here? What's your view on them? What's your general view on track days?
Well, basically, they're probably about the most amount of fun you can have on four wheels, period. I mean, with all due respect to sand duning, quadding, whatever, going fast in a car around a track is just there's not much for me that can top it, to be honest. I get a thrill from it, the adrenaline rush from doing it, the enjoyment of doing it safely, so you're not on public roads. It's great, and then especially when you get to take a car that was built for the whole purpose of carving up corners out to do exactly that. There's nothing that beats it, man.
That's
There's
an
nothing that
extremely
beats it.
satisfying, extremely rewarding experience.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I started. So I mean, I got into track days actually when I bought my Clio. So I was shopping around for a car around 2014, end of 2013, and I wanted specifically to find a manual so that way I could start doing track days. Because up until that point, I had gone down a couple of times to the Bahrain International Circuit because I used to live in Bahrain at this time, and the track scene there actually is quite big. It was like really, really big. You had, especially in the winters when the weather was really good, you could easily get 20, 30 cars out there. And because it's a F1 circuit, there was enough space that you didn't have a lot of crowding issues.
Yeah.
So you can go and have a lot of fun and enjoy. And Bahrain's great for the car culture because there was such a random mix of cars that showed up. It was incredible. So I'd gone down to a few, and I always knew in my mind this is something I really wanted to do because I love like playing racing games growing up, Forza, Gran Turismo, that sort of thing. So I was like, all right, I want to do this my own. So I went looking for a car, found the Clio actually here in Dubai, brought it all the way back to Bahrain, and then shortly after figuring out how to drive it, because that was my first experience with stick,
Okay.
I took it down to a open track day, and that was it. Ever since then, I think I tried to do at least once a month for the remaining couple of years that I was there, or for the season that was. And then I came to Dubai and started right away getting into Yas Marina and Autodrome because those are the tracks that are available out here,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's an absolute blast. I love it.
Cool. So I mean, my first impressions about track days and the reason why I was so reluctant to do them was because obviously it's a bit of an abuse on the car,
Yeah, it is.
it's not abuse, but it's a bit hard on the car. You know, you're hard braking, you're hard accelerating for a good 10 minutes nonstop. You know.
Yeah.
So how does the Clio hold up on that? Do you think you've done quite a lot of track days on that thing?
Yeah. So I mean, I actually for
How
the
does it hold
first
up on it?
for
Or
the
have you
first-
upgraded stuff? You know.
well, so for the first like 2-ish years that I had the car, I ran it stock on all the track days
Okay.
I ever did. So the Clio comes no limited slip, standard suspension, basic road tires, basic brakes. And I found out the limitations pretty quickly early on
Yeah.
from what that was. So I started, so it was like bone stock up in the beginning. Okay. And then I found out that, you know what, actually, most road cars don't like heavy repeated braking. So brake pads and brake fluid need to be looked at if you want to do something like a really aggressive track day. If you want to come and have fun and do it at like 60%, it'll take
Yeah.
abuse. It's fine. So I started by buying better brake fluid, better brake pads, ran that for a while. Then I hit the next limitation for me, which was like, okay, the tires that I had on the car weren't the best, so let me get something that's a little bit more sporty performance. So I had some nice Bridgestones on there for a little while. Then I was like, okay. Then, okay, the suspension's a little bit soft for track days. I want to get it down. I want to get it a bit firm. So
Yeah.
then it was, okay, let me take a look at that. Okay, front wheels have some grip issues because it's open differential. Let me get a limited slip. So honestly, it's been a journey from 2014 till today, 6 years. Yeah, every so often there's a little bit of change here and there to get the
absolutely.
car
Absolutely.
more dialed in to where she can go constantly lap after lap after lap without any kind of issue. But literally out of the box, 75% ready to go. And
Yeah.
if you drive accordingly, she'll handle any track that you can throw at it without an issue. It
Okay.
does take some abuse. Okay, you wear your tires out a little bit faster. You wear your brakes out a little bit quicker. You wear your engine oil out a
It's
little
not,
bit
it's, not,
faster.
it's not as significant as I made it up in my head.
But
I
it's
would
not
imagine.
exactly. It's not really that big of a deal with every other car except the Clio, only because you need to watch out for the gearbox. But everything else is pretty standard. Like it's not, and that's the best part about the car. Running it is not expensive.
Yeah. Well.
Oil, standard maintenance. Standard maintenance. Like oil changes aren't that bad.
Yeah.
Brake fluid change not that bad. Brake pads
Yeah.
not that bad.
Yeah.
Like
I
these
agree,
things
I
you
agree.
can. And so
Absolutely.
you could go through a whole season probably, and you wouldn't really spend too much and enjoying the car, and you get to enjoy it to whatever limit you feel comfortable with, right?
Because you're on a track.
And that was the whole thing for me. It's like I love the adrenaline aspect. I love the aspect of getting the line right, doing it consistently, getting these little tweaks to make yourself go a little bit quicker and a little bit faster in certain sections. And it's all about just the focus and the enjoyment.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, you don't even really notice that you're not going particularly fast because you're focused on doing it better every single lap. And that's what I love about
Everybody's
it.
going just as fast as you are, anyway.
Well, there are some cars.
Is there
that
a
go-
track or is there a track or a specific corner that made you think, oh, I need to get this mod in order to master this corner, or in order to conquer this corner, or conquer this track?
It's funny you say that. So BIC is a very like flowing track. So, sorry.
It's okay.
Let me put that on silent.
I think I should put mine on silent too. Yeah.
Like the BIC, Bahrain International Circuit, the F1 layout is a very flowing track.
Okay.
So you can actually, like the biggest thing about any car is managing weight transfer. So
Yeah.
it's how to get the car to lean from one side to the other when you're going around corners. The BIC, the corners tend to be very manageable because you don't have any abrupt left rights. There's nothing short and tight about it. Everything is, you can prepare your entry, brake properly, turn in. You can get the car to behave the way you want it to.
Sure.
So any adjustments don't really unsettle the car. There's a lot of fun sections. And then their inner loop is also very similar. There's not a lot of quick left rights where you need something that's really well settled. You can manage the car. So again, for 2.5, 3 years, the car was bone stock on almost everything except brake upgrades, and it went perfectly fine. A couple of hairpins were challenged coming out of the corners, but you just managed the throttle and off you went. But when I moved here and I started doing track days, I always had in the back of my mind, okay, I want a bit more sporty, track-oriented suspension. But I did a Yas Marina track day one day, and we did the South Circuit. And there's a very quick left-right chicane that's uphill, which is like miserable for the Clio on stock suspension because all the weight's in the wrong place. You're trying to get the car to very quickly change direction, and it doesn't like doing that very much. And I remember going through lap after lap and just thinking, like, man, if I could get the car planted, she would go through here so much better. And that started getting the wheels turning. That's I was like, all right, I'm going to have to pull the trigger on this. So eventually I went down that route and I picked up a set of coilovers for the car. And then the last time I went and did a track day there, phenomenal.
Nice.
Resolved like almost every single issue I had with it. Now it's just about little tweaking and dialing it up to get it to do exactly what I want. But yeah, it was brilliant. Like that's probably the one biggest mod that I've made to the car that was specifically because of one corner.
Or one chicane.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? Anyway, like I've seen quite a few videos of it. I remember I sat at one point. There was a 12-hour race. I think it was happening. I sat at that chicane because they were coming up, right, so you can get them kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the race cars would bounce off the curb, right? So I was trying to get that shot. So I remember that chicane very well, actually. And I hear a lot of people complain about it. That's true. I've never done it. I've never tracked Yas. I'd like to once all this is kind of blown over and we're back in the hot seat. Inshallah one day. So you've only tracked in Bahrain and in
the UAE.
You never tracked abroad.
No, not yet.
No, in the US, no. So you can't really give us a comparison on that.
Not yet. But coming soon. I mean, like I was saying before off camera, I have my brother-in-law has been getting into it slowly with his car in the States. And unlike here, there is definitely a process that you need to go through. So the U.S. is obviously very litigious, and they like to sue for anything. So in order for you to risk your life and others, they want to make sure that you've been certified to some extent. So they make you go through a whole bunch of hoops before they'll even release you on your own out on the track.
Fair enough.
Which is fair. But that's part of the reason why I like it out here is that, in the Middle East, it's the total opposite, which is like you are responsible for everything.
It's very Arab. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
if you want to do this, own it or don't do it. And it's great. And for me, I was perfectly happy to take that on because I started building slowly. And I've gotten to a point where I'm comfortable with the pace that I drive. And, that's all well and good, and I'm happy with it.
So do you know a bit more about the track certifications you need to get in the US? Like, what does it really involve? Like, what do you do? Like, is this a guy that teaches you, hey, you need to brake at that point, you need to accelerate at that point, and like, is that how it goes?
So it varies a little bit, I think, from track to track. The one that I was most familiar with in Seattle, the way that they explained it was before they'll let you go on your own car, on your own dime out on the track, they make you go through what's called High Performance Driver Education, HPDE. And the whole idea is they view you as coming as a novice with zero experience, and they'll teach you everything that they think you need to know in order to handle a car safely at high speed.
Okay.
So that means, what does it feel like doing hard acceleration, hard braking? What does it feel like when you hit threshold braking versus ABS? How do you handle a car in an ABS condition?
Yeah.
How do you do immediate response given, something in front of you? So, for example, a lot of times these HPDEs will have you accelerate to like 60 miles an hour or 100 kilometers an hour, drive at somebody, and he'll give you a last-second decision left or right. And then you have to react quickly based on which way he's pointing, stuff like that, right?
That's insane.
So there's all these like little things that they try and teach you. And then once they feel like you've got the basics of car control, then they introduce you to the basics of track day driving. So braking points, entry, corner exit. What does it mean to understeer? What does it mean to oversteer? How do you balance a car? What does weight transfer mean? And a lot of these things, again, all the stuff you have to pay for in order to get certified, right? Nothing's free. But I know, like, to draw a parallel, I know we cover a few of these ideas in track day briefings out here in the Middle East, but a lot of them are theoretical. They're not practical, hands-on. No one's going to jump in the car with you to teach you these things in a controlled environment. They'll tell you what you need to look out for, and then it's up to you as a driver to kind of recall the situation when you're in the middle of it on the track. Absolutely. Now, to be honest, a lot of this stuff, let's say, is innate. Everybody knows when you're in a bad situation, you panic, you hit the brakes, and your ABS is going to kick in, and you'll try and steer away from something. Like, everybody understands that's how that works. But it's understanding how to be in control of that situation, which takes practice.
Yeah.
Like you don't.
Yeah, because if you do something repeatedly, it becomes like second nature.
Exactly.
You know? Like I was thinking when I was on the track, yeah, if something were to really happen, if someone were to spin out in front of me, how would I react? You know, or if like I lose my brakes suddenly and I'm just flying off the straight into the wall, you know, what am I going to do? And it's a bit scary thinking.
I lost my brakes.
Yeah. And it's kind of scary thinking of that stuff, you know, like, and again, they don't prepare you for that stuff, you know, like I jumped in, I got the briefing like everybody did, and that's it. It was my first day on the track, and I'm alone in the car, and I was supposed to have Ed with me, but he didn't have the bracelet again. So he got kicked out last minute, and I'm sitting there alone, first day on the track, and I'm like, whoa. I'd been on the track before in the Lotus Experience that they have at the Aerodrome, and there you have an instructor with you and all that, and fun.
But even then, that's a little bit different because the instructor there is just kind of giving you tweaks. You've only got a handful of laps. You're not really
You're not there
learning.
And it's not your car.
Exactly.
Also,
you're just doing.
You're just doing for the sake of blasting the Lotus around the track.
But I mean, if you were to have any car to learn by doing, a Clio is literally like the best example. So I'll give you another thing. Like part of the reason why I put a slightly bigger brake kit on the Clio, and the reason is. I wanted a little bit more thermal mass to deal with a really hard, aggressive braking because way back when I was in Bahrain, I decided one time the turn 1 on the BIC, if you know it, is a hairpin.
Okay.
It's famous for being at the end of about a 3 or 5 kilometer straightaway. So you cross the start-finish line, F1 cars will cross it, and then they enter the braking zone at 320-ish kilometers an hour, and they'll go from 320 to 60 in 75 meters or less, right? It's insane. I figured I'd try to do that. So, of course, the Clio's not doing 320. It was doing about a $190, and I was on the brakes as hard and as late as I could go, and I managed to get the car to stop and turn in about 120 meters, which I thought was pretty good. The problem was I didn't have any brakes anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this until the next hairpin. So as I'm coming up to it, I'm getting on the brakes, and she's not slowing down the way she's supposed to.
Yeah, dude.
So I think I ended up like, 20 meters off track, and there's a nice runoff area. So
what do you do in a situation like that? Do you just hang on and
you just
hang
on, keep braking?
Handbrake can't help you?
No.
That spins you out, doesn't
exactly,
it?
Don't pull.
Even if you ease it?
So what I did is, because again, this is the whole thing, is there's generous runoff areas. Even though I missed my braking point, I could still continue to brake and come to a stop. And then I realized, I need to cool the brakes down a little bit. They're a bit hot. But that's exactly the point, which is, okay, now you start to learn through experience what works, what doesn't work.
Absolutely.
And then you can start to realize where the limits of either your skill are or where the limits of the car is, and you start to manage that. And you're really only going to get that behind the wheel, having gone through it in some kind of controlled environment.
To go back to the courses that they give in the US, do you think that should be something that should be implemented here? Because... Again, I mean, you can learn a certain amount on personal experience and doing all that stuff, but a lot of times it's a big risk you're taking,
True.
Like, even though the track makes you sign a waiver saying you're the complete responsible for all that, but, I mean, if you don't know the proper way to do it, I mean, we've seen a bunch of people drive like crap on track, like... It's awful, and it's dangerous for everybody else, So do you think that kind of system should be implemented? No, you can't get on track unless you have a certain certificate with a certain program, Well,
it's a bit of to be honest, Sam, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I'd love to see something like that out here in the UAE because it would give everybody a more level playing field. I know, unlike Yas, Autodrome does split novice and intermediate. They require you to have at least a little bit of experience in a novice group before they'll release you on track with everybody else who probably has a lot more seat time, which is great. It's a great way to keep people from getting anxious or over, flustered or something like that because of everyone else. But again, the instruction that they give you tends to be a lot of theoretical, and the practical is left up to you. I think it would be great to see more courses designed to teach, but there must be some way to figure out how to make them more accessible to drivers. And it's the same thing in the States, to be honest. I mean, an HPDE can cost you like $400 or more, depending on what's going on. So you do the translation, you're looking at 1,600 ballpark, 1,500 dirhams, which that's the other
reasonable price.
It's reasonable, but that's the other side of the sword, which is especially when you have someone who wants to go do it once a year. That's a big threshold to clear before they'll even let you on track. So there's got to be, and I don't have the answers, but I would hope that the guys running the Autodrome or the Yas will come up with some kind of program that'll be a little bit more affordable, but it continue to keep motorsports accessible to people, but at the same time doesn't end up raising the costs of everybody who wants to go out. Because the downside is, it's expensive to open the track for track days, and if you end up with less and less people going because the threshold to get on is now higher cost wise, it becomes more expensive for everyone else to do track days. So
absolutely,
it's a bit of six of one, half a dozen of the other. But I'd love to see that come in. I mean, I think it would be great. I'd love to. Hell, even I would go do it because you can never.
You can always learn something.
You can always learn something new, right?
Of course.
There are guys out there who have way more experience and knowledge about driving a car than I do, and I'd love to, get their thoughts and understand where I can adjust.
Tell the difference between like people who have like obviously between racing drivers. Like I remember watching a video of. I think it was Alonso who was doing a lap around the Autodrome.
Yeah.
And I was looking at his line and I was looking at his braking points and all that because now that I have kind of like an obviously experience in it,
Yeah.
And this dude is like, so it's another level, he's like braking all the way into the first corner and that's one thing I remembered someone had mentioned on track is you're either braking or accelerating. You're never letting the car just kind of stride and just go naturally, in a neutral point.
Yep, coast. You don't
coast. Exactly, you don't coast. You're either braking or you're accelerating, no in betweens, And then it made sense watching this guy. I don't remember what car he was driving. It was a regular.
I think he was driving the Dragon Racing 458s.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Challenge. Yeah, I think it was a race car he was in.
It was a race car, but it was crazy, man. It was crazy, man. It was like, and we really, because you watch them obviously on all these other tracks, but I have no idea what these other tracks are about. I've never driven them.
Now you got a sense, right?
Now I get a sense of the differences. Obviously, the more experienced guy and better car, but I mean, it makes so much of a difference going in there knowing exactly what you need to be doing at these turns and how the car should behave at this point, how you need the car to be positioned or in what gear or whatever before attacking a certain corner or a certain thing,
Absolutely.
So I think getting those courses, maybe it's a good idea, getting these kind of classes out here. But you're right, maybe not enforcing them as you have to have it to get on track, but maybe giving them out as an option would be good. I think a lot of people would do. I'd do it probably, now that I've tried tracking, I'm just like, fuck yeah, let's do it again, man. Definitely,
I'm glad.
I'm up for that for sure.
Yeah, and which is why I was ashamed that we lost
track day 2, man.
Track day 2.
And the White Drive said it was really nice. They had the sports cars section, and then they had the hot hatches, which was mainly golden Clios, and the classics, right? So you don't mix. You don't get these guys doing 300 kilometers an hour in their Ferraris, flying by you in your little Clio. And I was topping out like 170 on the straight. My car is a bit beat up. It doesn't go too fast.
It's about as fast as it'll
go. So it makes much more sense. I've heard a lot of people complain about that. Different classes running together. Where you got people in these 1,000 horsepower GTRs flapping everybody, and it's just not fun being around these kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of bullies. It's so to me it made a lot of sense because everybody's on my level.
Yeah.
Some a little faster because they got the mods. Some a little slower because they're just slower drivers. But I think I was amongst one of the slower drivers. But it was still fun. Just looking around Yusuf's face or whatever.
Yeah,
everybody came out with smiles,
That's exactly what it's all about. It's about building that community, right? So, I will say this. One of the things I loved about Bahrain is that whenever you did a track day, because of such an eclectic mix of cars, everybody came with everything, and everybody was happy to talk to anyone. So I would the way that Bahrain used to do it is they would run a track day session for whatever it is, 3 hours, and you would have 3 30-minute slots, and the other 30 minutes would go for bikes. So you were on 30, off 30, right? And whenever I was off 30, I would just go wander the pits. You'd find literally the most random. I mean, I've seen a Citroen C3 fully stripped out, track ready.
Wow.
Somebody showed up.
That's nuts.
I've seen one guy came down from Kuwait in his monster built GT2 RS. Again, totally modded, tuned, insanely fast. AC Cobra kits. I've seen classic muscle cars go out there. I've seen mid-engine hypercars and supercars go out there.
Or nope. Is it all the same?
Open run. So I was usually the moving pylon because I was by far the lowest horsepower car out there, but nobody minded. And the best part about it is that everybody recognized it on the track, so they were typically pretty respectful of the general rule, which is don't pass in a corner.
Yeah.
So I would also try and be respectful and stay off lines and get out of
Yeah,
people's
yeah, of
way
course,
and
of
lift
course,
and
of
whatever.
course.
But at the end of the day, it was a good mutual, because there was a lot of respect for everybody showing up with whatever the heck they ran with. I mean, there was a supercharged what was it, EP5, the Civic? No, the first gen Civic Type R. Guy came with fully stripped with a blower. Thing was making 500 horsepower. I've never seen anything move that
That's
fast
nuts.
down the main strip.
Yeah.
It's insane.
That's nuts.
Like random stuff like that.
So do
would
you get
show
the
up.
same kind of culture over here? Is it the same kind of
Well,
thing where
I find
mindful, respectful, sharing the passion, sharing the love when you're meeting these strangers at the track days? Is it the same?
I find the car groups tend to be exactly the same, which is awesome. I'm glad I found things like Dubai Drives or the S2000 group, UAE Car Culture, all these guys. So when you're in a meet, I find that everybody is super respectful and willing to share, willing to help, willing to support, whatever it is. But for some reason, I find the track days tend to be a little bit more standoffish. Drivers who come tend to be a bit more focused on their performance, and so maybe they're a little bit more willing to make aggressive moves on a track day,
Yeah.
which when we're doing something public, not associated with any particular group, can be a bit challenging because, like you mentioned, you do actually end up with a wide range of skill and power on track, and it becomes almost a mental game because you need to respect the fact that somebody else is quicker than you, but at the same time, I've been out there with cars that should have gone much quicker than me but were way slower because the driver is learning. So even at our horsepower level, there's a lot of give and take there. Some drivers handle it better than others, and I feel like that might be one of the reasons that we could benefit from like an HPDE out here.
Okay.
It's kind of help drivers really appreciate that track days aren't about setting fast lap times. It's about enjoying what you're driving.
Absolutely.
And if there's a
Absolutely.
lot of traffic out there and there's a disproportionate level of skill or power, then it might be something that Autodrome could look into and doing that segregation so that way everybody can enjoy it to the maximum with minimal risk. You know what I mean? But conversely, I find if I go to Abu Dhabi, Yas is maybe because there's less cars that come out, but Yas is also feels a lot more like Bahrain. It's much more relaxed.
Okay.
People are super chill. I've had guys jump in the car with me and do laps out there. First time I met them in my life. It's a very open community out there, which is awesome. And I've really enjoyed every track day I've done at Yas, without exception.
Okay.
But
it's the same people from Dubai that end up in
No.
Abu Dhabi? Or is
No, it's the Abu Dhabi guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's definitely Abu Dhabi guys doing Yas.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of rare. Like the few times I've gone down, I think I might have been the only Dubai plate.
Okay.
So I've really enjoyed the Yas track days, but it also might be a function of the fact that there are less cars out there, and that does count for a lot as well.
Okay. That does very much. Do a quick reset on that.
Yeah. Do you want to pause it or?
I already did. I already reset it.
okay.
It's fine. I mean, again, it doesn't have to be like perfect or whatever. What am I doing? Cancel this. Start it again. Yeah, man. So that's.
But I mean, all in all, I mean, like the tracks do their best to make sure people are staying safe. I've always had marshals are serious about looking after track safety and driver safety. So if you ever come to them with complaints, they are proactive. They talk to drivers.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is
No, the
absolutely.
Tracks, the tracks have it under control. I'm sure.
Absolutely. Those guys are looking out for the situation.
Absolutely.
I'm just talking from like a personal experience because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we are driving some of the slowest cars that go out there.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
there's a certain amount of concern that comes with that. But
Hey, it's not the size that matters. You know what they say.
yeah, I mean, I'm having
No, they're
fun
hella
with it.
fun cars, man.
I'm having fun with it
Yeah.
regardless.
But
That's what it's
personally,
about.
like, I mean, they're really fun, these cars to drive, the Clios. But I found it, I mean, as much as fun it was on the track, because it was my angle on the fun factor was the limitless, no fear of public road driving.
Oh, yeah.
You get, that was what got me, But I still prefer canyon carving, like this is my favorite thing because it's you get to see the nature and you get to see all that stuff. And here the wadis that you get sometimes, like the Hatta Squiggle, that's like my favorite stretch of road in UAE. Even though it's like a 3-minute sprint or something like that, if you're doing it, it really balls out. But a lot of blind corners, a lot of blind crests, so it's always stressful doing that,
Yeah. No, I mean,
so that's where I guess a track day wins. Everything's
a little bit more controlled.
more controlled.
in a
Definitely
box,
a lot
yeah.
more controlled.
I mean, personally, for me, I love doing those back road blasts as well. It's super fun, but yeah, they always come with an inherent risk that you have to accept.
Especially at 6 in the morning with the bicycle guys out there like
Exactly.
doing their thing. And
Exactly.
this one time, man, I was going over and I always see blind corner and I'm going, you know what, I was watching my speed because I was a blind corner and then suddenly this fucking group of bike guys just come out of it. I'm like, dudes, what are you doing? It's 6 a.m. Go home and sleep.
They're
man.
asking for trouble.
I don't know.
man.
I don't know what it is about them. These guys not asking for trouble. I mean, I get it. Do it. Whatever. I mean, just like I can give them the argument. Go to contra track. They can give me the argument. Go to the racetrack. You know, like. So it's fair in both ways. We're both kind of like, and these guys are doing, but some of them they do like stupid shit. Like I've seen one guy doing like a turn on a blind turn. You know, like
Yeah.
he's in the middle of the road and
That's-
he's just doing a U-turn and he's like half off the bike, kind of like
Hopping
just
around,
hopping
yeah.
around, and you're coming down even at normal speed. If you're coming down, you're just like I just do it in the middle of the road on a blind turn. You know, what do you do?
Yeah, no, I remember the last time we did Hato, there was a few cyclists that were cutting corners, and it's like, well,
Yeah, what are you doing? You're not a
it's
car,
not
dude.
yeah, exactly. Not a smart thing to be
You can't
doing.
brake as much as far. You can't maneuver. Like, you're gonna smash into us, man, or we're gonna smash into you. But anyway, that's like a bit off topic. Never
Yeah, I
mind
mean
them.
the canyon roads are equally as well, almost equally as fun for me. I love doing those blasts too. But yeah, it comes with a bit of a balance. And so for me in the winters, like my priority is to do the track days because it's a controlled environment and that's what
Absolutely.
I feel most comfortable with.
Sure.
But absolutely, I 100% agree with you. It's
Yeah.
nice being out in nature. It's nice being out there and
Going
seeing
for a
what's out
drive,
there. and
yeah.
just
And I
going
love
for the
those early
drive.
morning drives in the to like Hatta or to Jebel Jais. I mean, Jebel Jais has become a bit abused these days. Like, there's always traffic up there, especially on a Friday. So I think the best time to do Jebel Jais is like early morning on a weekday, you know, or any time on a weekday. Honestly, there'd be nobody. On the weekends, it's always crowded, man, and it's like a bit annoying.
Or a foggy day when no one's driving.
Or on a foggy day when no one's. But then foggy days are foggy days, man. I can't do foggy days, man. I get so scared. I don't know how these guys do it. I don't know how they do it. Doing 120 on the fucking left lane and like just.
I think it's because they don't know any better. But man,
Is it, man? But you hear all these horror stories.
those are the same guys doing 140 in the rain.
Yeah, like, but you still hear all these horror stories that are real, like the fucking accident they had in Abu Dhabi, that like 100, 200 car pileup or whatever,
Yeah.
because of the fog.
Once
you know?
a year, right?
Once a year, it happens once a year. Man, like, you would imagine, dude, this is dangerous. I don't know, just look outside your car, you can't see shit. How are you driving 140, you know? Like, I don't get it, man. Like, I'd be scared shitless just driving, like, it makes no sense, man.
Dude, that was honestly that was one of the. There's a few times in my life I've really been very worried driving. One of them was in Bahrain a few years ago. I'd come back from work. I was working in Saudi, and we took off from Riyadh right as the sandstorm was rolling in. Flew to Bahrain, landed right as the sandstorm was rolling in. So I managed to get off the flight okay, got to my car, started driving, and it hit full force. And I am not kidding. I couldn't see 3 feet past the nose of the car.
Oh my god.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And it was just
It's
like
worse because you can't even see lights in
nothing,
the sand.
nothing,
you know?
nothing,
Like,
nothing.
it's-
You couldn't see lights until they were 10 feet away from you, and you're like,
Yeah.
you could like. I would watch the line on the road like go a little far in front of the car and then disappear into the sand.
Yeah, that's
So I just
insane.
like pulled over all the way to the left and I crawled and I was like, I really hope to God. And I had to drive from one end of the country to the other to get home.
Yeah.
It's not a big country, but still, it's like
Yeah,
a 30-minute drive. I think I did it in like 50 minutes because I was crawling the whole way.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I had
So
to drive like that once.
yeah,
stuck
I don't
in
know
the
how
fog.
people do it at
Yeah.
like 140. 'cause
Exactly,
you can't
man.
see
Like,
a thing.
Can't see a thing. Same thing with the fog, man. I had that one thing that can't see fucking 3 feet ahead of you, and I was just like. And I found this one truck, like one of those pickup construction trucks, you know, like those Toyotas or whatever. And he was also crawling. I'm like, let me keep this guy as a reference. You know, I just kept him like right there. I stayed. And eventually he started going off. I'm like, no, I'm not following him. I'm not following him. I'm staying where I am.
Yep.
And then these guys on the fucking fast lane, boom, boom, boom. Like, what are you doing?
insane.
Aren't you scared? Like suddenly something pops up. Like you can't see, man. I don't understand. I really don't understand. And they're probably not wearing seatbelts. And they're probably. It's just something about. It's something about Arabs. They're so arrogant like that, you know.
Oh,
like,
man.
It's so weird. I don't want to like say things like that, but it is very much about that. I think. Oh, I don't care. I'm above. I don't know above what.
I've never figured
above,
it out. Dude.
above death. Above
I
everything.
I just basically
Just do your
like,
thing, right?
Yep, you do your thing. I'm gonna pop over here on the side and just drive at a respectful speed, and we're gonna be good.
So you have Clio RS and then Honda S2000.
That I do.
How's that? How's living with that? What are those like?
Really annoying because you have to pick one to drive every day. No, it's great. Honestly,
you know me, I pick the RS every day.
I love it. The Honda was a legit spur of the moment kind of purchase.
It's the best.
And I have
and
to.
what a purchase, man! It's like
I know. I mean,
it's iconic.
It's
you know?
ridiculous to say you bought a car as like a spur of the moment, like spontaneous decision, but it was just
that's what petrolheads do, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
I guess
kind of stupid shit we buy. You know, I'm gonna buy some rims, or I'm gonna buy another car, or we're gonna
exactly. But yeah, a buddy of mine sent me a Dubizzle ad, and I just remember looking at it, going like, "This price is too good not to go see the car."
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
let's go see the car. Go drive the car. Damn it! Now this is too good of a drive not to really consider. Let's haggle a bit, and then he came down to a price that I was willing to work with, and I went,
sure.
"Well, I've committed this far. I might as well buy it."
Absolutely, man. That's great. That's great.
So,
But you told me that it's a bit more of work than you'd expected it to be.
It's getting there. I mean, but that's the thing with all cars, right? If you buy a bargain, it's a bargain for a reason. Nobody sells a bargain car because it's in pristine condition. So,
Absolutely.
So it needed
especially not an S2000.
Yeah, it needed a little bit of work. The previous owner had taken care of a few things. Some things might need to be redone, but mechanically she needed a little bit of love and care because some things were getting old and whatever
Has
else.
it been easy, kind of like doing all that in terms of finding parts, prices of the stuff, someone to work on it? You know.
Well,
I mean, I imagine it's an easy car to work.
So if
on.
I compare it to the Clio, it's actually a dangerous car because it's so well supported in Europe and the United States that prices for things that you want to do to modify are like
so cheap,
super cheap.
Yeah,
like $100 will get you a lot, and you start going down that rabbit hole. You're like, look at all the things I could buy for $500.
Absolutely. Whereas the RS only have like K-Tech.
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
Like,
and then
or
if
a few
you,
other guys.
Yeah.
You know.
So if you want to mod the French car, you're kind of you need
British.
deep pockets, right? But the Honda, no, it's actually been pretty reasonable to maintain. There's a local mechanic here who's really well known in the group, who services all manner of S2000s from street cars to race cars to whatever. Knows his stuff. Really smart guy, really nice guy. So I deal with him. He can source some parts, which makes doing some work pretty easy. But the Honda's finally at a part where I'd say it's like 90% where it needs to be. Little bit of tweaking left, and she'll be done. And then it's just ride and enjoy, man. And then it's what do I feel like driving today?
Yeah.
Do I feel like driving the Honda? Do I feel like driving the Clio? And it literally alternates almost every day.
That's a great choice to have, man. That's a great choice to have. Thanks
I'm
for letting me
spoiled.
drive the S2000.
Dude,
I remember you lent it to me over a weekend.
Anytime.
It was my first experience in that car, and I think that I came out of it like honestly properly impressed, man. That thing is like super easy to drive for starters. I thought it was going to be a lot harder. Like maybe the clutch would be heavier or whatever. And I thought my car revved high until
you pulled the
$9,000. Pulled the $9,000, and you're just like, and the VTEC kicks in, and it's all the shebang that people say it is. You know, I'm not going to repeat what's already been said out there, but it's definitely a memory I'd remember. And that day I was chasing the two Morgan 3-wheelers. That was a sight I'd never forget. Like let alone driving the S2000. And one of the dudes in the other 3-wheeler, the black one, Naufal, dude was in a cast. Dude had a cast on his leg, like not one of those like plaster casts, like one of those plasticky ones.
Boots, yeah.
Boots, yeah, exactly. On his right leg, so the throttle, like, and
so he had a lead foot.
He had a lead foot, and this guy was just going and driving. Man, I can't believe this. I think he has like one of the highest mileage Morgan 3-wheelers out there. You know, I think he's put 12,000 kilometers on it so far.
Wow.
And he drives it almost as a daily. Like he loves it, and he's the best thing I ever had. He has I think he has other cars. He has a regular daily. But his other cars are like Porsches or something like that. But he loves the Morgan, man. He loves it.
I will say this. When it's wintertime here, the Clio does get less use. Because I just put the top down on the Honda, and that's it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Blast the music, and off you go.
But that's one thing that I was like minus points for that. With the roof up, it's so cramped, man.
It is.
It's
really funny.
Because when I picked up my buddy, it was like 5 a.m. or something, because we did a super early morning drive. So at 5 a.m, it was really cold. I wasn't going to do highway with the top down. So man, I was kind of like, this is really dark in here, you know. It's really kind of squeezed in here.
The darkness is the tent, but it is. You put the roof. It's funny. It's like you put the roof up. It's exactly as you described it. Yeah. It's small. You feel like your head is right on the roof.
Exactly.
There's not a lot of space around you, and it is what it is, right? And and then you put the roof down. And to me, the thing I love about the Honda is it has a relatively low belt line, so you can still sit up with your arm on the side of the door, and you feel like you're in the world while you're driving. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like if you drive a modern BMW convertible, everything is up till here.
True.
And you're still, it's up to your shoulders basically.
Absolutely.
So you're still well within the belly of the car. It's just the roof is down. But the Honda,
had that feeling with the Miata. Same feeling as the S2000, where everything's a bit lower. You're kind of like, I'm out there. I'm with you guys. Like it was really nice. Man.
Which is you have those two very big extremes on how the car feels. Man. It's funny.
It was really funny. And another thing that that was also a bit of minus points for me on the S2000 was the steering wheel was like this, as opposed to being kind of like I'm used to the Clio.
You can't move it.
Can't move it. Can't do anything. I was like. For like 10 minutes, man, I was like, there's no way Clark drives like this, man. I can't believe he drives like this. And I looked at it, I was like, oh wait, he has to drive like this, That's one thing I kind of annoy. I guess the more you drive it, you can fix the seat a little bit so you kind of like get down next to him. But a lot of times I felt like I was kind of like this,
rising up to it,
right up to it, and it was like too, weird. Like it's very. If tight, I put one hand up, it was like it's not like you're kind of like that, And especially the Clio has very much that kind of inclined kind of feel to it.
Tilt and pull.
Yeah, so I'm kind of used to that, and that's felt really awkward driving it like that. But I was like...
It takes a little to get used to it, but I'll tell you what, when I have taken the Honda out on one track day, and when you scoot close so you get that nice, 90-degree bend in your arm, you're situated right, it actually feels... It
makes sense.
Feels pretty good. Because then you're just, everything is right
exactly.
there.
Absolutely.
There's no tilting. There's nothing. You just grab on and off you go.
And obviously the gear shift is like right there. Unlike the same thing. Unlike the Clio where it's like there, but you have the higher shifter on the Clio. I got that little extension. Really nice. Yeah, that's really nice actually.
That was a purchase of necessity though.
Yeah.
Shift knob died, so I'm like, what am I gonna do?
I just bought a new one, man. Like it's one of those inevitabilities in the Clio. The synchros, the steering rack, and the gear knob. Yep.
I was like, you know what? This lasted 7 years. It's gonna break again. I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
All right, just what else is out there?
Okay, cool. It's nice. It's a nice shifter. I think. Send me a picture. I'll put it up on the video.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So. What else?
Where do you see the RS Club going?
Where do I see the RS Club going? Man.
I'm going to flip the tables here a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I don't know if I should say this in public, but no, we can't.
Edit.
So next week we have the meet. I think there's 9 people registered, like you saw, and I think I'm gonna keep it at that. I asked one more time. Nobody registered for it. So that's about as far as in terms of meetings right now. Obviously, because of the whole COVID situation, the meetings have gone completely out. We used to do once a month. But where do I see it going on the long run? Well, my future in the country is also undecided. As you know, I have a plan to go to Canada.
Yeah.
So if that plan goes through,
which is gonna suck, man, if that happens. I got to do what you got to do. But
man, it's gonna be hard for me. I'm leaving 25 years behind. Like it's. And again, I finally reached a point where I'm like embedded in the community and people know me and I'm contributing to the community as a photographer and as part of the RS Club.
Yeah.
So to me, that was something that as a kid I've always dreamed of. Like for longest time, I always felt like I was an outsider because I didn't have the car for starters. And I just didn't have any way to get in. So I always felt like I was just sitting there looking at people through the camera, And then suddenly I'm in it, Suddenly I'm fucking running a club. Suddenly I have a Clio RS I'm doing track days with, I'm doing meets with, I'm organizing stuff with different clubs, So to me that was always been a dream, and I've done it. Khalas, it's done. And that's one thing I'm going to find extremely hard to leave behind, other than my friends and whatever. So I think if that goes through, then I really don't know what's going to happen with it. I'm sure the club's been established. That's it. I don't think the club's just suddenly going to disappear overnight. I really hope not.
No. I mean,
I didn't put this much effort into it to like.
I think there are a few guys who could like
pick up where I left off, and I mean, it's not like I do much. I make sure people don't post crap on the group, like that's the most important.
You're the policeman.
I'm the policeman, but I have to be. Otherwise, people just share shit, like I don't want that.
It just turns into a WhatsApp
But these days I kind of like, I've been a bit easy on it. Just whatever, let the guys talk about whatever they want. And I just, every once in a month, I do the regular drives, once a month. Either you go Jebel Jais, either you do a track day, either you do Hatta Squiggle, or you come up with something new if you find a nice back road you went on. So it's pretty basic what I do. It's not like I'm doing anything out of like it's not normal. However, an interesting development with the RS Club is that I met with Renault and a few of the guys through Ershad, who has the white Megane 4. Because I think Renault is one of his clients in terms of something that he does with work.
Okay.
So he knows one of the guys, and he's like, "Hey, let's set up a meeting with the head of RS, and let's just see what we can do to benefit each other." You know,
Yeah.
which is what I wanted to do for a really long time.
Yeah, I remember.
We
you
managed to
talking
get
about
a few. We managed to get a knock on a few doors here and there. Me and Mark, but it never led to anywhere. The maximum it led to was getting invited to the Megane 4 launch, and that was obviously more of like a press thing, stunt, you know, than actually being interested in the club, you know.
Yeah.
Although they got a few purchases from that track, by the way. They got Ludovic bought one because of that, and I think a few other people bought one because of that day. No, I think just Ludovic actually. Anyway, but this time when I met with them, they were actually serious about let's do it, let's commit, you know. And who was it? I can't remember for the life of me what their position were, but they were very much involved. One of them was kind of covering the social media aspect. Another guy they were pretty much the PR kind of guys, you know. And they were suggesting, let's make it official, you know, let's take it to the government and actually register you guys as a real club, you know, because right now it's just a WhatsApp group. Our presence is just online and it's just a WhatsApp group, you know. And I was like, hell yeah, man, if that can give us better access to things in terms of, because I think here anyway, what we're doing is not really legal, you know, meeting that many quantity of people. I don't think that you're allowed to do that, you know, without written consent from the government. Amassing as a large group, you can't do that.
You're making us all criminals, Sammy.
I think that's why Dubai Drives is super worried about, you know, like, because if they get stopped as well, you know, what the hell are these cars doing like this? You know, do you have a permit to drive this convoy? You know, you can't be driving huge convoys like that on the road without consulting the police and telling them, hey, we're going to be driving on this path, blah, 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 you know. So I think that step would be an important step to take. But right now, again, everything's kind of on hold.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
life is time I think
after the summer.
Exactly. Every time I kind of get these inspiration to do stuff, I'm just like, and I'm like, oh fuck, god damn it, everything's
wrong
on hold.
timing.
Wrong timing. You know, that's why I'm doing this. You know, like I'm just keeping myself busy doing this. But I think that'll be the logical next step to do is to actually get back to Renault and be like, hey, dudes, let's you know, I'll take your word for it. You know, and take you up on your word. Sorry. Let's actually get involved together, you know, let's make this legit, because at the end of the day, you know, a lot of us are brand ambassadors. This is what we do, you know, we're out there representing you guys willingly and enthusiastically, and we push for, and we're so active, and we're like probably one of the most active clubs out there, you know, like other than Dubai Drives, you know.
Absolutely. Although I'm not sure Renault would like my representation that much, but
yeah, why? Yours is great, man. They love all these modded cars, you know, like, and they absolutely enjoy seeing us doing all this stuff, and as long as we're driving Renault for them, they're happy, you know. But what's been great is that, like, there's been a huge increase in the numbers, you know. So many Megane 4s have been bought, and most of them have ended up in the club, you know.
yeah, it's true.
When was the last time a Clio RS got added?
Well, it's great that we have
just recently, actually.
No, it's great that we have Fadi, who's also like a cheerleader, right? So every time somebody buys a car, he's like,
exactly. We have all these guys doing so. To come back to the subject, so I guess that's where I see the RS Club going, kind of establishing itself as an official thing, so that I don't really have to be the guy that's like, if I leave, it could be kind of like, oh, it's just there, registered with the government. I just hope that I'm not the guy keeping it together, you know, like, I don't want to be. It's all of us together in this, you know. Like,
yeah. I mean,
a lot of guys come and like, oh, you know, the boss is the same. Like, no, dude, we're all in this together. You know, this is a club. I just happen to be the guy that did the move, who instigated it, and I kind of like run the show. You know,
I think there's enough personalities in the group that it would stay together.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of us, like you and me, like me and Elio and Yusuf, a lot of us have become very good friends. You know, like, and I think that's my favorite thing about the car community. I've met a lot of my best friends through the car community. You know, petrol heads tend to hang out together and chill together, and so much. That's how I met my very best friend in Lebanon. You know, we're both petrol heads. All of a sudden, we're in class. He was sitting behind me. I'm like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" And we start talking cars. And since then, khalas, we've been together.
That's
you know?
it, huh?
But even though he's kind of like chilled out a little bit on the whole car thing, but he actually has he's now kind of turned to a strange appreciation of just regular cars, regular classics, like an old 190E or a 535 from like the 90s. You know. He's like, dude, man, I love these cars. I just want to buy one and drive it every day. I'm like, that's totally okay, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
You don't have to chase the supercars or whatever. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And he loves that. He loves it. He loves it. And every time he sends me like these ads he finds in OLX, which is the Dubizzle version in Lebanon, and he sent me once this like 1990 something 740 or 7 something like that, like,
Oh damn.
you know, the ones with like the slightly rounded but not yet the transporter
Yeah,
7 series, the one just before it,
E28.
something like that. Yeah, they were like fat, they were just fat
Yeah,
cars,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
I know
He
what
says
you're
it to me,
talking
he's like, dude, check this out, man. I'm like, that's actually, and it was pretty cheap. It was like
Haha.
a little above $2,000 or something
Cheap,
like
cheap
that.
to buy, not cheap to own.
Yeah, but like, and he told me, dude, fix it up a little bit. And then I looked at him, but like, that's a V8, dude. That's a 4-liter V8. You're gonna be driving around Lebanon. He's like, so what? I don't care. I'm like, okay, dude, whatever. Do whatever you gotta do. I mean, in all fairness, he drives a 39, is it? 535, E39, 525, sorry, or 23 even.
Yeah, those are peppy cars.
They're cool, man. They're nice, and I like the interior. The interior is nice. I really like those interiors at the time. The leather everywhere and everything. It's no plasticky, you know. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't seal so much plastic. Nice leather seats and everything. It's a Lebanese car, so it's seen its fair share of Lebanese roads and Lebanese stuff, you know. But whatever.
So how did you turn into a petrol head?
How did I turn into a petrol head? It just kind of happened, man.
Do you remember
My
like
brother,
earliest-
my big brother was into cars at the time, and he bought a whole bunch. Actually, a bunch of these model cars were inherited from his collection when he started.
Oh, okay, nice.
Like maybe 6 or 7 of them when he had started them, and I took them and I started buying and adding to them. So he was a bit of a petrol head at start with. He still kind of is. He's leaned a bit more towards bikes these days, but believe it or not, he's only owned 1 car in his life and 1 bike in his life, and he hasn't driven in like 10 years because he's been in London for like 10 years now. He only got the car when he lived here. So my big brother, he has been a lot of influences for a lot of things in my life, but that was one of them, and it's kind of stuck with me, man, you know. And then photography kind of came from that, spawned from that. You know, I want to take pictures of cars. You know, I want to take pictures of cars. Mom, buy me a camera. Mom, buy me a camera. And it just kind of went into that, and then I went to uni, and then now here I am taking pictures of cars. That's
Living
exactly
the dream,
what I
right?
wanted to do.
Living
man.
the dream.
Which is honestly what I want to do. You know, like I don't see myself doing any, like, pursuing. If I really wanted to sit with myself and say, what are you going to really do for the fucking rest of your life, Sammy? You know, like, other than photography. Well, I'm going to be doing photography because this is pretty much the only thing I know. I can learn new stuff, but what do you want to do with this photography? Do you want to do the advertising? I was like, cars, dude. And I don't want to do the advertising part of it. This is something I don't want to get involved with. I hate advertising. I think it's shoved in our faces 24/7. It's something that's really annoying me because on social media it's just fucking there all the fucking time. Like, guys, give it a break, man. Give it a break,
Nope.
honestly.
Especially now they can't.
Especially now they can't, man. So, and I don't want to be involved in that. I
Yeah,
don't want to sell someone else's product. You know,
Yeah, I
like,
feel you.
no matter what brand it is. You know, and don't get me wrong. If somebody comes to me and goes like, "Hey, shoot my car," or whatever, I'll be like, "Yeah, sure." But I'd like the end goal. You know, where I'm in a position where I can be like, "No, I don't do that, dude. I do this," which is storytelling. You know, like, I'd love to go chase stories. I'd love to just be, even if it doesn't make me a penny. You know, like. I'll get my money through the commercial stuff with other means, events, portraits, like, you know, that I usually do. And I don't mind doing it that way. I like this kind of stuff. I love working events. I love working photography. Sorry, portraiture. So I'll get my money from there, and I'll take that to fund this kind of stuff, you know, talking about cars, taking pictures of cars, you know, hey, dude, let's go out for a drive and take some pictures. You know, this is the kind of stuff that I want to do for the rest of my life. Hopefully, if someone pays me for that, working for a magazine or something, sure. But until then, it's all passion driven, you know, like, a lot of people tell me, these cars, you know, what are, I'm like, no, dude, this is me and my buddies, you know, like, and so they look at me, they're like, you know, all the pictures, I'm like, referring my phone, people won't know what it is. All my pictures on Instagram, you know, people always ask me, where do you find these cars? What do you know, these are clients, you get paid for this? I'm like, no, man, I never get paid for any of this. You know? And they're like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, no, man, this is passion driven. This is what I love doing. I go out and I meet with people, and we have these drives, clubs and events and whatever, and there happen to be nice cars, and I take pictures of them. Or I find the number of the guy and kind of call him up, hey, let's do a photo shoot, and we do a photo shoot, you know. And that's what I love, and that's what I want to do, you know. Like, this is what I want. This is the only thing I want to do: get involved with cars. And even if somehow, some way, I lose my way along the way, I'd like to just work with something with cars. Let's sell cars. Let's talk about cars. Let's do anything cars. I found it, you know. I found it.
Yeah.
the thing that people look for, the
I
thing
know.
that people want, like
What's your passion?
what's your
right?
passion, what's your thing. Some people struggle their entire life, you know, and I'm super lucky that I found it, you know, and I realized that fairly young enough, you know. I was like 20 or 20, between 20 and 25. It's like, fuck, dude, I found it, you know, like I said, pursue that, you know. So I was focused a bit on the photography and getting my photography career started, but now I'm sort of slowly trying to deviate into how can I really get involved with cars all the time, you know, and keep the photography as just a money-making business that will keep a roof over my head and food in my belly, you know. Hopefully I don't get married and not have to worry about other shit other than that, you know. Right now it's the only thing I have to worry about, keeping a roof over my head, feed my cats and myself. Once you get a family, it's a whole different fucking subject, you know.
Yeah.
But
But
then
hopefully by then you got the car thing well underway and it's making money, and then you don't have to do anything.
Hopefully.
Right?
But then there's other part of me that says, you know, you got to experience the family life as well. It's part of life, you know, like. But then there's the other side of me.
You don't have to. It's entirely
I know you
up
don't
to
have
you,
to, but I'd like to. You
No,
know?
that's
Yeah.
the thing.
I'd like to, because it's part of a life experience. You know, having a family is part of being alive. Reproducing is part of the purpose. You know, of what you're doing here. You know, don't want to get all philosophical and shit now, but this is what I see it. You know, and it's great. And I'm a very family.
Well, then you also get another generation to pass the passion
Pass the
on
passion
right?
on to. I'd love to, man. I'd love to. Hey, dude, you want to go for a drive? You know, wake them up at 5 a.m.
That's what it's all about, man. Drop your son or daughter in
Exactly.
the passenger seat. And
Exactly. Or you'd be like, you know, they'd be old enough, and you'd have like several cars, and be like, what car do you want to chase me in today? You know, like, oh, that's lovely to dream. One of the dreams that I've had, like, would be obviously to have a crazy car collection, and just invite friends over and be like, pick one, let's go for a drive. You know, like,
Bring out the basket.
we got
of
the
keys.
basket, you know, and just like blind pick, you know.
Who's
That
driving
would be
what today?
amazing, dude. Wouldn't that? And I think that's something that a lot of people. I'm very lucky. I'm extremely lucky to be surrounded by people who are willing to do that. Lend me their cars, just for like you are, like Asil is, like Edward did.
Well,
Even
that's what it's all about, right? I
yeah,
mean, the whole point
yeah.
is, I subscribe to the school of thought that if you buy it, you might as well use the damn thing. You don't have to put 100,000 kilometers on it
Yeah.
every year, but like, cars are meant to be used. They are tools that were designed to provide. Okay, to be fair, they are designed to provide a wide range of, or fulfill a wide range of uses, from utilitarian all the way up to just pure, utter nonsense but passion. Right? This is completely useless as a car. You can't do anything except drive yourself and a person somewhere. But the feeling it evokes, it's meant
Yeah.
to be used. It's not meant to be looked at only. It should be appreciated.
Absolutely, it should be driven.
And
it should
there,
be used.
there
it
are
should be like,
way too many cars that are just
they just sit and do nothing, man.
exactly
Let's just pause that. And so we got an hour in already, dude. Nice one.
shit.
Let's go and continue a little bit because I like this conversation.
You're gonna have a lot of footage to cut.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, so for me, it's all about you gotta use it. I mean, the cars are meant to be used. They are meant to have miles put on them. They're meant to have a smile put on the person's face if that's the way they were designed. They're meant to get you from point A to point B if they're utilitarian. They're meant to haul stuff around if you know,
Absolutely.
like put them to that use or modify it to put it to the use that you want. But don't let it sit in the garage.
Yeah, man. I think the argument for that, a lot of people buy them as investment pieces, you know, like
Yeah,
other than collection.
Yeah, it's an alternative
you know,
investment.
It's an
100%.
alternative investment, you know. Like I remember I stumbled on this website, that it was like a.
The Porsche Index.
Not the Porsche Index. It was like an invest in an F40. You know, it's like buying a share in an F40
Oh
or
yeah,
a bond in an
yeah.
F40.
That was a couple of years ago. I remember that coming
Yeah.
out. Yeah, you could buy a fraction of a car.
Of a car, and then later on, obviously, when it's worth a bit more, you get your money back when they sell it, and you get more, obviously, because you
Yeah.
made more money. And it was an F40, and I looked at it, and I was like, should I?
Well, you can tell people
Why
you
not?
own an F40
Yeah.
with a little asterisk on the end of it, right?
You could tell, you could go up to girls with like, hey, want to see my F40? Fill out a picture, like, hey,
This is mine.
I own that screw over there.
You just leave that part out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I get it, right? Like
So that's what people do, right? Just to get back to it, as investment pieces, you know, there's
Yeah.
that McLaren F1 that went up for sale with the delivery mileage on it, you know? Like, why? Why would you have a McLaren F1 with delivery mileage and the whole plastic on the seats and everything is still there? This guy said to himself, this is going to be a hell of a car. I'm going to keep it here for now. 20 years later, when it's going to be worth like millions of dollars, I'm going to sell it. And that's what he did. Good for him. He probably had another one for him to drive.
I'd hope so. Because otherwise, you just missed out on probably one of the best driving
One of the best
experiences you
driving
can have,
experiences
right?
ever, man. Like I've recently delved back into the McLaren F1. Obviously, it's always been the king, the king of the hill that everybody's trying to beat, that people have already beat in terms of speed, in terms of record. But I think it set the benchmark so high that people just can't forget it. We'll never forget it. And I kind of delved back into it because there's one guy I started following on Instagram, Peloton25. And I remembered him from a long time ago on forums like supercars.net or ultimatecarpage.com. I remember that name, and I remember he was obsessed with McLaren, and he would know every fucking detail about every single chassis and everything. And I found him again on Instagram, was following him a bit, and they did a Q&A on stories. And people were asking all kinds of questions about all these cars, and he had like so much information about these cars, and I'm like, and I delved into it, and I realized this car really is one of the greatest cars ever made. Like the attention to detail in that thing, and just the whole no compromise, zero compromise on that car. I think this is what made it an excellent car. Zero compromise. A lot of these other production cars from bigger manufacturers like Ferrari and Lamborghini and all that, they obviously have to cater to a certain audience. I think at least. But that guy, he was just like, no, I have a vision. I'm gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
And he did, and I think he did excellently, And I think the design has aged so well.
Oh, that's because it's a function. Form follows function, right?
But it's just so beautiful, man. I love those tiny overhangs. I love this short, kind of low profile. It looks great, and obviously in certain specs, it looks amazing. There's I came to find through that Q&A that George Harrison owned one from the Beatles. I had no idea he owned one.
Harrison had one,
and he had like all kinds of custom things done to it with like lyrics written inside and special badges or little statuettes, like religious statuettes. That
he got the Hindu because he was they were yes.
So those little things, and he put them also across the. Hi, Gandhi. She's not going to come out, just in case.
Is she just under the bed?
Yeah, he always called her like that. So those are all like, those are crazy, man. Like this car, it's absolutely insane. What brought us to this car anyway? I forget what we're talking about.
The F1? George Harrison's F1.
Yeah, but how do we get to the McLaren F1?
Oh, just the details and why it's such a nice
amazing
car.
It is amazing. It is amazing.
No, I mean...
because the guy who
Peloton.
The guy who sold it, who bought one and left it at delivery mileage. Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing, to share the cars.
Yeah.
To share the passion. Like I can't imagine anything more greedy than owning a sports car and not letting my friends drive it. For example, like if I were to buy an F50 and a 50, the first thing I do is I drive it and I'd be like, hey dude, do you want to fucking have a go at it? How often do you get to drive it at 50? And I could offer these people this opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think that's essential, and I always tell my friends, dude, you guys want to have a blast in my car, just call me up anytime. I'll deliver it to you. You can drive it for a week or whatever, and nobody wants to. It's because it's not a Ferrari. That's why.
There are people that want to, man, and eventually they will take you up on it.
Man, at one point I had to force Tom to drive it. Like he was watching over my cats for a while because we were neighbors in Water City, and at one time I was like, I was like, dude, I left the keys to the car on the table. Take it, drive it. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Because he's just so... I don't know what it was, why he didn't want to. If someone were to give me a fucking Yaris, man, I'd be like, hell yeah, sure, I'll take it. Let's go. Eventually, I'm like, dude, take it, man. Take it, go, drive it, have fun with it, enjoy it, man. He's like, well, you went for a cruise to Kudra apparently and came back. So I was like, okay, at least you drove it. I can't believe I have to force people to drive my car. Is it that bad?
No. No, dude, it's just, like, to be honest, okay, so even when I bought the Clio, car history, a little bit of car history, right? Or for me, anyways. My very first car was a Mercedes SEL. So, big old family car, not much of a motor, did the job, easy to drive. Okay, fantastic. Went away to college, came back home, bought myself a 3 Series. So I had a nice 325.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
Classic, Classic, rear-wheel drive, nice balance, felt good. I was like, this is what life's all about, right? I don't believe in front-wheel drive. I don't want anything to do with it. Everything's going to be rear-wheel drive from now on. This is fun, right? So I start the hunt for buying a car to replace the slew of cars I had in between, because unfortunately my 3 Series got written off in an accident. and I was driving other family cars, and I drove my dad's. My dad had a Cayenne Turbo for a bit, and that was fun to drive, but not really economical when you get like 15 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
So, and my dad had an
That's
E39
terrible.
5 Series, which was awesome, but it had been getting up in age, and it was just getting expensive to run. So I was like, all right, let me find something, in the whatever 40,000, 50, 60,000 dirham price range. So I started looking around in Bahrain, and you come across, and I'm like, in the beginning, I'm like, no, rear wheel drive only. It's got to be a sports car. I don't care, 2-door or 4-door, whatever, but it needs to fit in this price point. And the stuff I found wasn't that particularly inspiring, right? Like I drove a 350Z, and I was like, yeah,
No.
like they're fun, whatever. They make a
Engine's
nice
great,
noise,
but I think everything else isn't that nice.
Yeah,
It's very
the
plasticky
interior
on the
was a
inside.
little-
Yeah.
so I was turned off. I was like, nah, no. And I'm looking around, and the M cars are super expensive.
Yeah.
I had to look at it, and this is like one of my dream cars someday to buy, an E46 M3. That one was showing its age, and the last owner hadn't been looking after it too great, so there was a lot of work that needed done. I was like, yeah, I don't want to deal with this. So I'm thinking, what can I buy? And they had this event in Bahrain at the time where the expo center opened up, and the dealers in the country could showcase old inventory that they wanted to offload, either new or used.
Yeah.
And so I went for a walk around, and I noticed there was actually a liquid yellow Clio base package, so not like comfort access, but I think nothing else included. So like,
Yeah.
the AC was the other, like I have the digital one. This one had like no Bluetooth. Whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, okay. And the price was right. It was about 55,000 dirhams. So I said, okay, I'll go down and test drive it. And I test drove it, even though I was adamant, like, no, I don't want front wheel drive. I don't want a Golf. I don't want this. I was like, you know what? Fine. Because I had some friends who were telling me, look at these cars, try this, try that. Took it for a spin, and honestly, I fell in love with it. And this was even still me not knowing how to drive stick that well. Took it for a test drive with me, the sales agent, and a buddy of mine in the back seat, and I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah.
If a car handles like this on a day-to-day, I'm in. I'm going to buy it.
Absolutely.
So, and that was it. And from then on, I was like, okay, I can appreciate the differences between the platforms. I know what rear-wheel drive is like. I know what front-wheel drive is like. I have yet to experience mid-engine, but I want to try and get that at some point. I've driven a Porsche. Like I have driven mid-engine cars, but I've never owned one. So I can get a feel for what they are. But for someone who's never tried it before or views them only as like econo boxes, like up until then, every other front-wheel drive car I'd driven was like a Mazda 2, a Toyota Yaris.
Yeah.
They're
Just-
a Nissan Tita. They're
Yeah.
like cars that they're so functional. All they do is get you from point A to point B. The Mazda was a little bit fun, but like you couldn't do anything above 80 kilometers an hour. The tires would scream at you. So you couldn't really you couldn't do what you wanted to do in the
Stop doing
car.
that, Clark.
Exactly. Stop messing with me. So I'd always written it off, but after driving the Clio, I was like, you can have a lot of fun in these cars.
Absolutely.
So for me, I think it's still the same thing, because if you had met me 6 years ago and offered me a drive in the Clio, I probably would have been like, yeah, sure.
But now you know.
Now I can appreciate. Now I'm like,
Absolutely.
what? You can have good front wheel drive platform. Yeah, it's inherently compromised, but who cares?
Who cares?
It's not a race.
It
You're
isn't.
there to have fun, right?
And these things are very well balanced anyway.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
They're super well balanced.
Oh,
I really enjoy the way they've done it. Man, fast French cars are usually very enjoyable. Like fast Fords usually are very enjoyable as well.
But you know what I will say though? I think the trick is, after driving this and the Honda, and I got lucky enough to drive one of the Lotuses on the track day they had last time. Colin Chapman was onto something, man. Simplify, add lightness. The lighter the car is, the simpler it is, the
Absolutely.
much more enjoyable it is to
dude.
drive, dude.
I think it might be the problem with a lot of these modern cars, man. Too heavy, too much shit in them, too much
So
technology.
that's what I was
in
going to
them.
say. Is like the next generation of Clios after this, the Meg 4s, while they are technically superior in every way.
But the Meg 4, I think they got it right. They got it right in the amount of power and the.
Oh, it's a great car.
The gearbox is great. Everything is great. The Clio RS, I think they completely killed it, man. I think they killed the entire spirit of the car.
I haven't. To be honest, I haven't driven the new one. So
I haven't driven them either, but I mean, just looking at it, you go like, dude, no. It's got flappy paddles. Like there's like.
But that's exactly it. It's pandering to the next
entire
generation.
Point
right?
is to get in and shift and slap a few gears around. who gives a shit about the cornering and all the shit you just said? I mean, that's important, but the whole point, I realize,
the problem
is just banging gears around. That's it.
People like you and I don't pay enough. That's the problem.
Yeah, man, but because they don't, if they build shit cars like that, of course I'm not gonna buy it. If they had built a newer, better version of mine, I might have traded in.
I mean, the last time I looked, I think it was like 2 or 3% of all sales in the United States were manuals, and I think that number's been falling.
Yeah,
so this
that's
is the
the
problem.
US,
Is people
man, in Europe, there's still everything's manual. In Europe.
But it's because it's still cheaper.
Yeah, okay, but give us an option. You don't have to do an only automatic car. Yeah. Make it optional. Make special versions to order. Make a manual gearbox. It's not hard. You can use the same manual gearbox as this.
Yeah, I think it's telling that when companies like BMW have moved away from manuals, it's because they know that if you offer manual and DSG, you have way more. You have so many people ordering the DSG that it just doesn't make economic sense to provide a manual.
Yeah, true.
And that's the problem. Is that the buyer power is all towards comfort and relaxation and. Which is actually what I find really funny, by the way, is if you look at BMW's lineup, forget the fragmentation. So when we were kids growing up, you had the 3 Series, the 5 Series, the 7 Series. Then they introduced the X5.
What
right?
was
So
it?
you had the full...
One sausage, 3 sizes?
Yeah, exactly. You had your full suite, right? And you had all of them looked exactly the same, which was great. Yeah. I had no issues with that. And then they started fragmenting, fine. But also, the core offering of each platform grew. With every generation, and I don't mean that in the sense that, I got a few pounds here or there. No, if you compare the size of the vehicle now to the ones they made in the late 90s, they're massive.
Yeah, of course.
To the point where a 5 Series today was like a 7 Series back then.
Absolutely.
And I find it really funny because with all this growth, they then went and launched a 2 Series. But if you look at a 2 Series, it's almost spec for spec identical to the 3 Series of the late 90s and early 2000s. Almost the same size, the same weight, the same horsepower.
Yeah.
Everything is almost the same.
I think there's a
so even
term
though
for
everything's
that,
grown.
Yeah, it's power creep.
Well, yeah, it's exactly. But what I'm trying to get at is that with that growth, everybody's preferences have shifted. And then when you finally revert to the original size that everybody loved in the first place, there's no room anymore for the manuals or because people are too old, they don't want to deal with it, traffic's too miserable, whatever. And we just hang on to what you got because who knows when the next time is they're going to make a small, lightweight hatchback that's manual.
I think isn't Toyota doing the Yaris with a manual, the GR?
They are. I've seen that the new one looks like it's manual, but it's turbocharged, right? So you don't have the NA anymore.
Yeah. No, that's another story. NA engines, I think, are going to be non-existent very soon. Everything's going to be turbo supercharged. But then again, that's emissions restrictions. Otherwise people would just keep it at A. But I don't get it. I would understand if you do the regular cars fully automatic, but this is a sports car, and we all know that the best fun to have, especially in a hot hatch, is if you have a manual.
Yep.
And I think the entire spirit of the Clio was killed off when they changed the entire philosophy. Not automated everything, but they changed the entire philosophy of it. Like right now, if I'm buying the Clio RS, generation 4, I feel like I'm just buying a full option Clio.
Yeah.
I've got pretty much just a little bit bigger engine. I've got a better gearbox. I've got sportier looking interior.
It's actually a smaller motor.
It's actually a
1.6, right?
Bigger
bigger
1.8
than now, whatever.
Sorry, bigger than the standard ones. But the standard ones are probably just 1.6, and the other one they just slapped the turbo on it.
They're
right?
small. Yeah, they're small.
Or it's probably the same engine. They just ECU tune it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean.
But anyway, yeah. So you just it's like a Golf. They've gone through a Golf kind of like this Clio. It looks nothing like the regular Clio,
Yeah.
These RSs, they were bred to be RSs, like an RS car. It's got a manual. It's got the flared fenders. It's got all the shit. It's a coupe. It's everything. I think that essence is just khalas. It just disappeared once they went into that. Let's just make it 4-door. Please the public, put an automatic in there, and it's all that. I don't mean to hate on the brand. I'm sure they're doing what's best for them, and at the end of the day, they want to make the money. This is what they want. This is their goal,
Yeah, but
So.
But that's the other thing for me personally is they're if you're a petrol head, there's no such thing as brand loyalty. Pick up a car that suits your fancy. Doesn't have to be.
Absolutely.
I've got one Japanese and one French. I'd love to have a German. I'd love to have an American. I'd love to have
them all, man.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was up to us, we'd have them all.
So it's what My response to that is if they want to do that, by
Yeah.
all means, do it.
Do it.
I don't have to buy it.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
gonna go
Of course.
for whatever
I
else.
will not buy it. You know,
Exactly.
like I'm pretty happy with owning pretty much the last gen of what this is. You know, like
Yeah.
this is what it is. You know, we own the last generation of these extremely fun Clios. I think, or at least hot hatches, French hot hatches.
I mean, I used to be like a dyed-in-the-wool BMW guy, and then
Yeah.
when Bangle came in and started
Yeah.
with the E90s and changed everything, I was like, oh my god, what are they doing?
Yeah,
But I came to that realization, which
but
is
he
like,
revolutionized it, man.
yeah, I mean, he changed
He
everything, and there were some great things that came
Yeah.
out after that as well. But what I'm trying to get at is, everything changed, times changed. That's fine, and at the end of the day, that's what the company's going to have to do to keep moving forward. Buy something else. Buy
Yeah,
what suits
yeah,
your
buy
fancy.
something
There's
else.
other things out there.
Buy
You don't,
classic colors.
you don't have to. I didn't have to be a BMW guy from then until the end of time.
Absolutely, you're right.
Someday I'll
you're
get
right.
my hands on an M5 or an M3, and that'll be what I want and whatever. But until then,
Yeah, yeah. But it is pretty impressive what he did to the company. Like he didn't just reform the way BMW produced cars. He reformed the way everybody produced cars. You know, especially those brands, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, and whatever. With that 7 Series, that everybody was like, "What the fuck is this thing?" You know, what are you doing? And it looks so ugly and whatever. But the technology and the way he presented a luxury car, that became the standard.
Yeah.
I think that was a shifting point where we went from those 90s cars that we're familiar with to the cars that we know today. You know? So I think it's super important what he did, and I didn't realize it as a kid. I heard there was a lot of commotion about it. You know, new designer comes in BMW, does all this stuff, and
well, he broke the mold, right? Every car
yeah,
had the
looked
same design
yeah,
language.
yeah.
They all look the same, and then he comes in and drops this radical design.
Exactly, and again, just kind of changes up the whole luxury car, you know, mid-luxury scene, and there's all this talk about it, and I didn't realize until a few years ago. I was like, oh, that's what he did, you know? It's not that he created a new design, because I was really young back then. It was like what, early 2000s that he did that? 2001, 2002?
Yeah.
I was like, what, 20 years old? So I was fairly dumb back then, yeah, I'd say. So to me, it was just all about the design, right? Because I didn't really think about it. I didn't really read much about it. But now that I'm thinking, I realize, no, dude, this guy changed the entire philosophy of what a mid-range luxury car should be like, you know, with all the infotainment systems and all that crap and everything. All this shit wasn't there before, these infotainment systems. They were there, but so basic, cassette player, whatever. He put the screens, he put all that shit. And it made sense. It was like, oh, wow, it was an epiphany to me. I don't know, I just felt like sharing that.